Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk Face to Face. My name is Hanna Getachew-Kreusser. I'm the Executive Director here at Face to Face Health and Counseling in St. Paul, Minnesota, where we serve young people with adolescent medical care, mental health services, as well as services for youth experiencing homelessness. And again, for those of you kind of joining a little bit later, thank you for joining us, Hanna Getachew-Kreusser with Face to Face. We've been doing this series of Let's Talk Face to Face for a few months now, and we've been just focusing on what we do as an organization, also what our community is all about, what we're going through together, and just some opportunities for us to have deeper conversations. Today, we have a special guest with us, Ms. Courtney Igbo-Ogbonna, who was crowned as Miss Minnesota for the Royal International Miss Organization. We're so delighted to have her here today because it is important for us to be with each other as women of color, people of color, really have the opportunity to do well and excel in many different things. And I think what we talk about this is many of our young people need to see role models. And I'm hoping to have is the opportunity to just ask Ms. Courtney some questions about who she is and what she would like to get out of this crowning. And so congratulations,
Thank you,
Courtney, for your crown, and a well-deserved one. And welcome. Thank you for your time here.
Happy to be here.
Yes, if you could just really tell us a little bit about who you are and what this title means to you.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Igbo-Ogbonna, and I am from St. Paul, Minnesota, currently live in Lower Town, so still here in St. Paul. And I assumed the role of Ms. Minnesota for Royal International Miss in September of 2020. So right now, gearing up for the international competition, which takes place in July of this year in Orlando, Florida. So hopefully we will have people from all over the world come in and compete. Unfortunately, last year, a lot of our international queens weren't able to come with the pandemic going on. So fingers crossed that we're able to invite all of those great women from overseas over to Orlando this year. I've been competing in pageants since 2004. So it's been really a lifelong journey for me, and I absolutely love pageantry. I believe that it is a great way for young women and their boys pageants out there too. Really, anybody can compete these days. To really focus on who they are as a person, work on their presentation skills, public speaking, interviewing, knowing how to have an opinion on something and be confident about that opinion. And so I really do believe in the power of pageantry to be a way for people to learn about themselves and just figure out their roles within society. So I can talk about pageants all day, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have for me and talk about education and things like that. So
great, wonderful. Yeah, and please, those of you watching, feel free to comment and ask questions as you watch here. And so, Courtney, say a little bit more about yourself, who you are as a person and as a young person, and now as Miss Minnesota.
Yeah, so I am first generation Nigerian American. Both of my parents came to the States in about 1980s around. And so a lot of my identity is centered around growing up really in two cultures, the Nigerian culture and the American culture, and how I have taken from both and kind of made up who I am. So it's been a very interesting kind of navigation through life, right? Trying to remain true to my roots, but also being influenced by things that are around me all the time. And I know a lot of my friends who have parents that were born outside the country, we all talk about, how our parents want us to be one way, and then we're trying to like do our own thing and become our own person. But I am very thankful for all of my experiences and my culture and everything, because I really do believe that all of those things have made me the person that I am today. And while I'm still working on becoming, my perfect idea of who I am, I'm definitely working towards that. Currently, I do work at Land O'Lakes, and I run our summer internship program. And so that kind of makes a full circle around. I love working with college students, with young people, helping them navigate the choices that they have to within their education and also professionally, and giving them the resources and steering them in the right direction to achieve whatever goals that they may have. My platform, Destination Diploma, focuses on the access and success of underrepresented students in higher education and beyond. So for those that want to pursue higher education, great. If they're like, college is not for me, I want to go into a trade or start my own business, great. How can I help you do that? What resources can we research together so that you can become closer to whatever goal that you may have? And so within my work, within my platform, it is centered around influencing and trying to really coach and mentor young people to their idea of success.
Mhm, mhm. Great, wonderful. And I know the if you can go deeper into kind of the Royal and National Miss Organization um, is all about, and I think you were talking about kind of specifically two different avenues to um, kind of this crowning journey, right? So
Yeah.
if you could tell us a little bit about that, and also really your own journey to the
Mhm.
crown, like what does that, what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll start with Royal International Miss as an organization. So we are in our 10th year. They're celebrating 10 years. They started this organization in 2011. So fairly new scholarship program. And so it is a scholarship program. All of the competitions, all of the winners are granted scholarship money that they can use for their education, student loans, etc. And it's also an organization very much rooted in community service. So in July, I'm actually going to be competing for two titles, the Royal International Ms. title and also the International Role Model Ms. title. And while both of them have like the same status, the role model title is actually dedicated to helping plan all of the community service activities throughout her year of reign for the international queens to take part in, but also for the women that will be competing for the 2022 titles to compete in as they prepare for their competition. And so even the international queens are all encouraged to obviously go into their communities, be advocates for things that they are really passionate about. Try to influence kids all the way up to adults. Try to get as many people into helping your mission as you can. And so that's something that I really do love about Royal International Miss is that, yes, it is a pageant. And yes, we have to, wear the evening gown and do the hair and the makeup and everything like that. But the whole goal is to give back to wherever you are. And, if crowned, I can only imagine having the platform to take my platform of Destination Diploma internationally, because I've only really been able to do work here in Minnesota and it's kind of, across the nation as well. But to be able to take it to a whole different continent is something that I'm very excited about. And I really hope I do have the opportunity to do this year. As far as preparation, I mean, a lot of it is, really trying to figure out what are your opinions? What are the things that you do value? How do you view the things that are happening around you? As a Ms. contestant, I'm competing with women that are young as 25, as old as, 75. I don't know, quite everybody in my division, but there are older women that are competing. And so because we are looked at as, mature, a little older, a little more seasoned women, they are going to ask us questions about current events and expect us to have an opinion on it. And so again, while yes, learning how to walk in heels and practice in your evening gown and practice your turns and all of that, that's great. But they're really looking for someone to be an ambassador for the program. And so you do have to be well spoken, you have to have an opinion, you have to be able to speak on everything that's going around you. And so that's what I really love about preparing for a competition is just seeing how I reacted and viewed things, and it becomes a way for me to really figure out like where I am in life at that moment too.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. And so like you spoke about this a little bit about using your voice. I think this is about, like you a couple times you mentioned having an opinion, right? I think
Mhm.
what would you say, I think, as to young people, why is using your voice important? And what does that mean really for, like using our voice to really speak our truth and also be kind of aware of what's going on in our community, right? So what does using our voice mean, and especially for young people?
Yeah, I think so often young people are always told to, listen to everyone who is above them, right? Yield to
Mhm.
everyone who is above you. And so sometimes, maybe as adults, we don't give them the platform that they deserve and that they should absolutely have. And so whenever I talk to students, I always say, speak your mind. If you have something to say it. Because more often than not, you understand exactly what is going on. Youth are not, oblivious to things that are happening around them. And even more so with the climate, especially the way things are in society, the
Mhm.
youth are the ones that are speaking up the
Yep.
most. And I am so empowered by that because I feel like even just 10 years ago, I mean, I definitely wasn't as, into current events and social disparities that we have, so being able to see this next generation really just own all of their opinions, all of their values and speak on it, it makes me feel like we're going to be good. like everything's going to be okay. We are in good hands when they are able to take on leadership roles. But I always tell people, if you have an opinion, say it and be confident in that. And don't ever be afraid to, say something that may not be the status quo. Always, everyone is entitled to their opinion, and people speaking up, that's how you influence others, right? Because one person may not consider things that you're considering, and that makes up your opinion, your morals, your values. But once they hear that, more often than not, there is common ground, right? But there's so many things influencing the way that we view things, from our culture, from our families, from our education, so many things. And I think once we're able to have those conversations and listen to people, that's when we realize that while our opinions may be differing, I can understand the root of why they think that. And because I can understand that, I think that is able to um, just be centered more around respect and respect of differing opinions. So I always tell people have power in what you think, don't ever stand down, speak your mind, and that will really serve you well as a youth, but also as you are become into your adult times as well. So,
Wonderful.
mhm.
And, if you don't mind, I just kind of want to learn about, some of the challenges, right? Like that you've experienced trying to speak your mind or have your voice, right? Like we're not saying that it's all you make that decision and it happens.
Mhm.
Could you give some examples of some challenges that you were able to overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that happens, quite often.
Mhm.
I I think let me think of a time I had to do that. Um, there was so in a previous job, I was working on how to entice more people of color, right, to attend our institution. And there were certain things that I identified very quickly as like, if we fix this, I think that we will be a little bit more enticing for them to really consider as an option. However, the people who were there far longer than me, who had far more experience, maybe weren't seeing that because maybe they thought there was more to it, or it maybe wasn't like that easy. And nothing's easy about changing systemic things, but there are things that can be quickly fixed or quickly modified so that we can get closer to our goals. And so, being someone who was very new to the organization, I didn't quite know where my place was. And I didn't want to say something where they're like, oh, you've been here for 2 months. You don't know anything. I've been here for 20 years. But as a woman of color, as a Black woman, I'm like, these are the things that I would absolutely look for first. And we don't have those things. And so I think if we start to work on those things, we can get closer to what you're saying is an overarching goal for the organization. And I was in a lot of meetings, talking to a lot of different people and kind of listening and taking in what was being told to me. And then finally, at one point, I said, hey, if we want this to work, before we even get to, problem C, we got to start in problem A. So I think we're overlooking this.
Mm.
And I think, at first, maybe they're kind of like, we've looked at that, but giving them a very defined method of how to get there, that is what I had to do. And, at first I was very hesitant to speak up. But again, going back to what I just said, even though I am new, even though I am one of the youngest people in the room, I still have power in what I think and believe. And I was able to influence some change after speaking up. And I'm very proud of that. So being able to, have that confidence, that is huge. And making sure that at every single point, you're always are thinking of what can I do to add and influence positively what the overarching goal is.
Mm. That's really important. Here at Face to Face, we talk about our youth being powerful,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's powerful. There are many barriers that our young people face, and yet, we talk about how powerful they are in influencing their lives in their community. And so, how do we engage with them
Mm-hmm.
from that place of power, right? Like,
Exactly.
how do we really encourage them to engage with their strength and aspirations in life? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's really important for us to hear you kind of really emphasize that as well. And I think, so a little bit of that is about, what you talked about your platform, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, tell us more about that, because I think like you were saying, higher education is not the only path, for young people. There are many other things. So just say more about what you do there and kind of, what you would like young people to really understand and embrace.
Yeah, so Destination Diploma again focuses on the access and success of underrepresented students in higher education and beyond. And so through my platform, I have worked with students that have said, maybe a 4-year degree isn't for me, or maybe I want to go to a 2-year and see if I get my associates and see if I even want to pursue higher education and get a bachelor's, or maybe they have a professional endeavor they want to be on. And so while talking to students and realizing that college may not be the answer for everyone, I have said, okay, well, then let's look at your resume. Like, how can I help you become the most attractive to employers when you start applying for jobs? What are some organizations that I can connect you to so that you are able to network and meet professionals in that industry so that you're able to hear what things that you need to accomplish in order to find success in that career? How can I help you with your interviewing? Let me ask you some questions. Let me help you with your cover letter, right? There are so many things that are encompassing, right, in my platform, that it's not just focused on education. I think it was when it first started, but I have heard and I absolutely respect people who do not want to pursue higher education. And so with that, I've been able to help a number of young people, apply to colleges, apply to jobs, just, helping them network, connecting them to different professionals that I know to hopefully make that path for them just that much easier. I think as I grew up and, went to college and became a working adult, there were so many things that I didn't even know I didn't know. And, right now working in HR for a Fortune 500 company and being very connected within the Twin Cities communities to a lot of different companies, I have learned of a lot of different initiatives and organizations and resources, right? That I'm like, if I would have had this when I was 21, if I
Mm.
would have seen this when I was 17, I can only imagine I'd probably be a CEO by now. And so I do my best to try and give them all of those resources that I had and also that I didn't have so that their path can be a little bit easier than it was for me. And that is what my platform is centered around about. All the knowledge that I have, if I can give that to you and pass that on to you and find new knowledge and give that to you, that is a day well spent. And so being able to mentor and coach and help these young people achieve whatever it is their idea of success, then I'm going to do whatever I can to do that.
That's just wonderful. And so in your work in that platform, what are you hearing from young people about some of the challenges and their ways of kind of overcoming those?
Yeah, so I feel like there are for a certain goal, right? There
Yeah,
are steps that one needs to take
right.
to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
And while we may break it down, like, I think about, I worked in law school admissions. So I think about applying to law school for those that want to be a lawyer, right? Step one would be to get a bachelor's degree. Step two would be to take the LSAT. Step three would be identify the schools you want to go to and apply. But for someone who comes from a disadvantaged background, while for some person that might be kind of straightforward and easy, for another, they're like, what even is the LSAT? What is that? I have to apply for law school through one system, and how many fees do I have to pay? There's so many different steps with all of those all those other steps, right? You have all of these substeps that one may have to take. And for someone from a disadvantaged background, it might be just so much harder, right? And it might take twice as much energy to complete one step that it would be for another person. And so I do my best to try and break it down, right? So if you want to apply for the LSAT, right, we're going to have to think about this let's start from the end to go to the beginning. The end goal is taking the LSAT. When do we need to start studying for the LSAT? Do we want to take a prep class? If we want to take a prep class, how are we going to budget for that? Are there resources are there organizations that offer free LSAT prep? Trying to find ways to alleviate some of that stress, but also trying to keep them on track with their goal. Because if you want to be a lawyer, we can absolutely be a lawyer. That might take you a little more time, a little bit more resources, but we can absolutely do that because there is help out there. There are organizations out there. And so we just have to take some more time to find how we can get you closer to that goal. Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah. So, I mean, I've heard from them that sometimes, things just seem unobtainable, right? That there are so many, barriers to entry, for one person that might be, yep, I'm just going to take the LSAT. Like, that's great. But for another person, the LSAT might be the reason why they don't become a lawyer. And so I think that's a whole other conversation in itself when looking at a lot of different systems and a lot of, things that they have to complete in order to find that status. Are there ways that we can give different options? Are there ways that we can modify the process so that it's more equitable for everyone? We can talk about that for hours and hours and hours. But yeah, I would say that is what I hear from a lot of young people, is that it seems like the system is set up to exclude them from it.
And it's very true, right? Like having one of the highest disparities in education, and in this state, I think there's a lot to be said about opportunities not being available to certain groups, right? So I think this is what we know and experience, and also hear from our young people. Many of our young people we serve, face-to-face serves about 2,500 to 3,000 young people each year through the many doors that we engage young people on. And so, we engage with them through their immediate needs, right? The things that they need to be true in their lives. And I think what we're starting to do is also add to that and go, how do we engage young people from their aspirations, right? From their strength.
Yep.
The system is really has trained our families and youth to engage from the deficit, right? Like something is missing, so here I come. Kind of the charity model, right? How do we engage young people and from their strength and their dreams and their goals in life? And so we're trying to create opportunities with that. And so really need the support of people like you and your platform. And so one thing we're discovering is also the need for mentorship, right? Because you spoke to it a little bit, because young people need role models. Young people need to engage with others in the community who can actually kind of walk with them, help them navigate the systems that it could seem to be and is very overwhelming, complex, right? Like
Yeah.
unattainable, like you said. Would you say kind of a little bit more about mentorship? Kind of what your thoughts are about that and what your experience has been? And
Yes. I mean, mentorship is so important, right? I mean, yes, I have knowledge, but I'm still learning every day. So even till this day, seek out mentors, people to help me, navigate through things that I don't understand. And so I believe it is so important to have someone, and maybe they don't have all the answers, and that's totally fine, but somebody to lean on to help you through that process. Um, that is something I didn't take advantage of a lot throughout my younger years, and I wish I would have. And it's become something that, as I get closer or further into my career, something that I have identified as being a necessity in order for me to stay relevant and to learn how to navigate the choices that I have every day and how to, um, obtain more skills and perfect on the skills that I already have. And so I would say if you have someone or know someone, um, or start maybe with a guidance counselor or an organization like Face to Face, right, to help you find people in the community. I mean, I don't think I've ever gotten a no when I ask for somebody to be a mentor, right? Everybody wants to help. They love to assist people. And if their schedule allows, and even if it doesn't, they will still find the time. I think sometimes people get nervous about asking people to mentor because they're like, oh, they seem so busy. They're always like from A to Z. They have such a busy schedule. But if you ask, I think they, number one, it's a flattering thing for them because they were like, oh, you see me as someone who has achieved things that you want to achieve. But also, they also learn from people that they mentor as well. I have a mentee at Carlson, and she is a freshman. And I love hearing just the things that she's thinking about as a current college student. And that even helps me in my job, as we recruit our interns and develop programming for current college students, hearing from her, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that. Or I'm like, oh, I'm going to modify this so that it kind of adheres more to what they care about more as young people. And so it is a two-way relationship, absolutely. So don't think that you don't have anything to offer. We definitely have to connect people from all different walks of life together. So mentorship is something that is so, so important and something that everybody should definitely pursue.
great. Yes. And so we know at face to face, it's amazing, to us how young people are already pursuing their goals and dreams and higher education. And it's amazing how even in moments where, they're not sure where they can stay for the night, and yet really holding that dream of, furthering education and other forms of training. And so really, really important to honor and acknowledge that for young people, not assume
Hmm.
that they are defined by their needs, but really. And so, in creating that space, we hope to kind of build on their resilience and opportunities
Yes.
for young people more and more. And so in just the 1 minute that we have left,
Went
uh,
by fast.
right? Could you, for what would you say? What would be your message to the young people that face to face serves as well as in the community? What is your message? What is it that you want young people to be reminded of or be aware of today?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that, especially with society, it's things aren't easy, right? And I feel like people often look at youth as like, oh, their life is easy. They don't have bills, they don't have a job, but it's really not easy. And it's okay if you don't feel like you have everything figured out. But always know that you have value, you have something to add and somewhere to make things better, and you have a purpose to serve, and you may not know what that is quite yet, and that's totally fine, but you do, and one day everything will come together and it will all make sense. So right now, do your best in trying to immerse yourself in as many opportunities as you can through your education, through joining clubs, right? I mean, right now we live in a virtual world where you have access to attend often free events to when people are talking about social justice issues, people are talking about professional topics. All of those things are free and easy to access. Definitely attend that. You know, right now we're living in a very different times, and in some ways there are cons, but there are a lot of pros to this right now, and there is a lot of knowledge out there to soak in. So try to immerse yourself as much as you can. You know, focus on your strengths. I love what you're saying, to focus on your strengths and not where you feel like your shortcomings are, because it's easy to spend a lot of time obsessing of everything that isn't perfect about us, everything that we don't have. But focus on the things that you do, focus on the things that you want to learn, and know that you have power and you have the opportunity to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve in your life. So always just keep moving forward. If you need help, ask for it. Always seek out help, because people are there and willing to help you make life a little bit easier and help you towards your goals. So just know that you have value, ask when you need help, and you will be just
Thank you so much,
fine. Yes,
Courtney, and in Miss
thank you.
Minnesota for the Royal International Miss Organization. Really appreciate your time and also your willingness to continue your partnership with us and really being there with young people and for young people in our community. So appreciate your time. I'd love to be able to have you come back and really spend more time talking about the reality, right? Like the equity issues and also like
Mhm.
the resources around us. And you touched on the opportunities that we have right now
Yes,
to really
absolutely.
bring solutions to all these challenges that are glaring at us at this moment. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was
Bye-bye.
wonderful.
Bye-bye.